Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending to this presentation. I know that this is the last presentation of the day, that you may be a little bit tired after so much interesting information that has been already been said in early presentations. But I hope that you will also like what I'm about to show. So as usual, let me please introduce myself. I'm Sergio Vera, and I am a Magento software engineer from the Barcelona office. I've been in Magento for more than 6 years, previously working in the Magento Order Manager, and since the beginning of 2020, in the Magento Commerce side under the Iberian Links team based in Barcelona. Today, I would like to talk about a long-standing Magento issue, version updating, because let's face it, sometimes updating Magento is way harder than it should. In an ideal world, updating should be a straightforward process. Just apply the update, and all should work the same way, and hopefully better as it was before the update. The raw truth instead is that this is far from true. Problems arise which are inherent to the software development process. As the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, the only constant in life is change. And this is, as you know, is especially true in the software development world. Code evolves and changes, and things that used to work in the past no longer work or work in a different way in next iterations, whether this is by evolution itself or by newly introduced bugs. And although Magento has advanced leap and bounds in supporting customizations, there is also a long-standing tradition in the Magento ecosystem of customizing the Magento code base itself to add new functionalities or modify existing ones based on customer requirements that not always adjust to Magento recommendations. These customizations are very likely to break the instance after upgrading it to a new version. The difficulty of the upgrade process directly translates to the customer feelings that can be put into numbers. For example, Magento obtained a Net Promoter Score of -27, which is a metric used in customer experience programs, with 23% of customers saying that the total cost of ownership is too high. Also, in an April 2020 survey to partners, sales, and customer success managers said that a top factor in losing sales is the total cost of ownership. And more than 83% of hacked Magento sites are running an outdated version, and in 2017, e-commerce fraud rose nearly twice, a plus 30% year-over-year increase, making addressing unpatched sites critically important. In summary, we should and we can do better. In Magento, we are aware of the problem, and several initiatives have started trying to fix that. One way to improve the situation is to make this process easier, providing a clear view of what will cause problems before the user crashes into a wall, therefore fastering the updates. This is where the Safe Upgrade tool, or SUT, as we'll call it from now on, comes into play. SUT is a project we have been working on during the last months. In a nutshell, it's a command line tool intended to provide a look on how difficult it will be to upgrade to a specific Magento version from the current one being used. To do that, SUT will scan the source code of that instance and look for Magento API misuses, incompatibilities, and other problems, providing at the end with a list of found issues that should be fixed in order to be able to upgrade to the intended Magento version. Let me add a little disclaimer first. Right now, SUT is little more than a proof of concept, and as such, it may change direction drastically, or even be completely ditched if we feel that it doesn't fulfill its objectives. With this in mind, let's take a look at how it works. For this first alpha, we chose to focus on PHP issues, as Magento itself is written in PHP, and these are the ones we are most familiar with. Of course, in future SUT versions, we intend to check for other issues that may happen, as we'll see at the end of the presentation. In this first alpha, SUT will look for the following cases that you see in the slide. The usage of Magento classes and interfaces which do not belong to the Magento API and then are not intended for public use. The usage of Magento classes or interfaces that used to exist but are no longer present in the Magento API version we want to use. And the usage of Magento classes, interfaces, methods, constants, etc., which are deprecated and will be replaced or removed in future versions. The usage is pretty simple, as we can see using its included help system by just executing SUT with the help flag. We just need to pass the path of the Magento instance we want to check. And optionally, against which Magento API version we want to check it to look for incompatibilities. This last parameter is optional, and if we don't provide it, SUT will use the API version of the checked instance. Let's see all this with a real example. Let's say we want to know how difficult it will be to upgrade our Magento from version 2.3 to 2.4. To do so, just run SUT, passing the directory where the Magento instance we want to upgrade is located as the first parameter, and the Magento version we want to upgrade to with the flag C, which in this will be 2.4.0. As you can see, SUT is now running, showing a progress bar. Typically, it shouldn't take more than a minute or so, although it depends on the number of third-party modules that we have installed in our instance. When it finishes scanning, a list with all issues found will be shown, as well as a summary with data such as number of modules scanned, number of errors and warnings found, and the total running time. Looking at the issue list, and as I mentioned before, issues are divided in two levels, warning and errors. Warning for all issues which are not critical but may cause problems in the future, and error for all issues which will break the application if it's upgraded to the intended Magento version. They can be identified by its color, with warnings being in yellow and errors being in red. Issues are grouped under the file they have been found, and also show the line where the issue is located, as well as a brief description of the issue itself. So now let's take a look at how SUT works internally. Broadly speaking, SUT is a static code analyzer, or in other words, a program that analyzes software without actually executing it. This analysis, in turn, is actually made possible thanks to the generation of abstract syntax trees. This is a little bit of tongue twister for Spanish-speaking people. Also known by its acronym AST, from the checked code. Probably, many of you are familiar of ASTs. If not, fear not. And let's check its definition, which I have shamelessly taken from Wikipedia. An AST is a tree representation of the abstract syntactic structure of source code written in a programming language. Each node of the tree denotes a construct occurring in the source code. I think this is better shown with a small example. In this slide, we can see an AST generated from an implementation of the Euclidean algorithm. This algorithm is used to find the greatest common divisor of two integers, or in other words, the largest numbers that divides them both without a reminder. So the pseudocode that you can see at the left side of the slide translates to the tree at the right side. This way of representing the code has several advantages when you see it as a way to analyze how an application works internally. An AST can be edited and enhanced with information such as properties and annotations for every element it contains. An AST does not include inessential punctuation and delimiters, like braces, semicolons, parentheses, etc. And usually contains extra information about the program, like the position of each element in the source code, allowing to print useful error messages. Generating and parsing ASTs is the base of two libraries developed by my colleague Volodymyr Kubrisky. Kudos for him for his great work, which in turn are used by SUT to perform its analysis of Magento instances. These two libraries are called Magento API Index and MRay. The Magento API Index is, as its name implies, a kind of dictionary containing all classes and interfaces which belongs to the Magento API and, therefore, are intended for public use by third parties when developing its own plugins and modules for Magento. SUT uses this index to check if a Magento class, method, interface, etc. used by a third party actually belongs to the Magento API and is not deprecated. Our initial idea for the API index was to create an online service with all this information, providing a REST or GraphQL API to access this information remotely. This approach had several drawbacks, such as the need to maintain a new online service by ourselves, with all that involves. Magento API doesn't change that often, as it only needs to be updated with each new Magento release, so making this information offline a feasible option. In the end, it was decided to use file archives as the way to store this information, with the advantage of not having to rely on an external online service to fetch this information every time we needed it, in order to have to devise a caching system. All of this is available from the start with the usage of a composer repository plus file archives. Let me remind you that a file archive is just a standard PHP way of distributing libraries as a single file, similar to Java jar files. So when we install SUT, the index information is downloaded from a composer repository, and it's available offline in the form of a file archive, with data about each Magento version that SUT supports, starting from Magento 2.0 up to the latest one. For each Magento version released, a new index containing API changes will be created. MRay, on the other hand, is a set of tools to explore Magento extensions based on static code analysis. Actually, the data that the Magento API Index used to create its entries is gathered by MRay. SUT uses another feature of MRay that allows to scan third-party modules installed in a Magento instance, looking for usages of Magento classes, interfaces, methods, etc., and returning information such as in which file and line that Magento element is used, the kind of element, its fully qualified name, etc. Combining the information provided by both the Magento API and MRay, SUT generates a report without found issues in the instance, as we saw in the live example that I showed you before. SUT is also designed to be easily integrated with other tools, as its output can adjust to any format you can think of, like JSON, CSV, XML, or whatever, implementing a simple interface. Both Magento API Index and MRay use internally the PHP Parser library written by Nikita Popov. The use of a PHP Parser written itself in PHP may be a little bit surprising, because PHP is a language that does not seem to be especially well suited for fast parsing. But take into account, however, that we need not only to parse just code, but a great chunk of the required information comes from PHP doc annotations in it, such as API, deprecated, and others. And in this regard, the PHP Parser support for them is best in class. Also, most of the target audience for SUT is composed by PHP-only developers. And given the results we have gotten so far, performance is good enough at the moment. So let me wrap this presentation up with a look at what the future may hold for SUT. As you may imagine, the PHP issues we are covering for this first proof of concept are just a very small subset of all possible issues that may arise during the upgrade process. In fact, the number of possible cases is just staggering, and we are trying to prioritize those which are the most common. Keeping in touch with system integrators and developers of the Magento community and gathering feedback from them. We intend to do a first alpha round soon, so selected partners can do a hands-on test, reviewing and evaluating the tool. Depending on the feedback, the priorities may change, and even a completely different route could be taken. But as of now, these are the areas we are thinking of working on next, in no particular order. One of the possible checks we may introduce in future SUT releases is to look for schema changes between GraphQL versions. Another one is to analyze JavaScript code, the same way we do with PHP. JavaScript has its own API and will require its own index to compare with. We'll also need to update this index with each new Magento release, as we do right now with the PHP API. Also templates are HTML files with embedded PHP. We are not taking care of them at the moment, as they present their own set of challenges. We know, though, that this is one of the main sources of customizations. Finally, we are also thinking in advising users who want to upgrade to a newer Magento version about what is the best upgrade path they can follow to achieve that. So, for example, if we wanted to upgrade from Magento 2.1 to Magento 2.4, that is something that is not supported by Magento as of now, SUT will propose a supported upgrade path, which will go through the different intermediate versions between 2.1 and 2.4. Some of these new checks will also add new dependencies to SUT, like new interpreters such as JavaScript, which will increase the complexity of the deployment of the tool. As such, we are discussing the possibility of distributing SUT as a Docker image or similar, which would make it easier both for us to maintain, as the resulting image will be controlled by us, and as such, we will have a single combination of dependencies to support, and for end users, which will need less steps to actually be able to use the tool. And this is it for now. Thank you for your attention. I hope you liked what you saw. And now if you have any questions, feel free to ask whatever you want.
Thank you, Sergio. We have a question. When it will be accessible for the community to take part in moving forward this project? Really interesting and business useful tool, as for me, says Alexander.
Well, Alexander, thank you for your question. Actually, we intend to have like this first closed alpha release very, very soon, maybe in a couple of weeks. And for public release, we are targeting for December right now. But we have to first gather feedback from this first alpha close release and see if there is critical issues to be fixed or if it's really being useful for the guys using it at the moment.
Alexander also asked another question. Is it possible to suppress warning? For example, we can use this tool for the deployment flow.
Yeah, that's a possibility to also customize what's the output that the SUT tool will provide. This is something that, because we are in early stages, this kind of feedback for us is really important, and this is something that I don't think it will be very problematic to implement. So right now we cannot suppress that, but I guess that if it's something that it's really useful for developers or maintainers, for sure we will implement it.
Thank you very much. Guys, maybe you have another question? We have a feedback. Thank you, very interesting and useful. Looking forward for the release.
Thank you, Alexander.
In case you have any other questions, please feel free to ask them and everyone can hear them, the answer to them. Seems like everything is really clear. Thank you very much, Sergio, for a very interesting and fruitful presentation and very detailed so that everyone understands And people are really appreciate your presentation and your time. Thanks a lot. Right now, in case guys you have other questions, please feel free to reach out to Sergio and ask the questions either here in Hopin or reach out to him in the social media. And this video, the video of the presentation is recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube after the event. So you can feel free to review it more and more times in case you want to find the answers to your questions. And in a couple of minutes, we're heading back to the closing remarks at the main stage. Please be ready to get there. In the meantime, we still have some time for chat rooms, networking, and Ask Booth. And thank you all, guys, for joining at joining MageCONF and enjoying our amazing speakers. Sergio, thank you once again. Have a wonderful evening, day, or afternoon for all of you guys, wherever you are. It was a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.